Good morning and welcome to Tower Gardening Made Easy. I'm Sherry, and this is our weekly podcast called Let's Talk About It because as gardeners, we have a lot to say. And today's show is going to be jam-packed as usual with a lot of fun, but we're going to start off with something really cool. I want to introduce you to one of my new best friends, Blake. And I'm going to share his video with you in just a second. And you're going to learn lots about who he is and just living the lifestyle. I just really love his vibe, and I hope to have him on the show very, very soon. So let's get into today's show. All right, let's kick this off with some morning vibes from Blake. I love this video. His vibe is just absolutely amazing. This is dear Blake. He's got some Facebook page called Beansy Sprouts. He's on Instagram on Easy Panics, and he's got a beautiful website called www.azpanics.com. And he was kind enough to let me borrow his video to show everybody in today's podcast. So what I can see, he's got lots of towers outside. He's living his life, his best life out in Arizona. So he does indoors and outdoors. So I'm going to go through the video and then I'm going to stop it. And we're going to go back and we're going to kind of go through his towers a little bit. But yeah, it's just, I mean, look at the palm tree, look at the cactus. I mean, how can you not love that? This was an amazing video. And of course, he's got a little bit of soil too. So I'm going to back this up and we're going to go real slow. So he starts off and you can see some little like prawns down there in the bottom. And he looks like he's got a bunch of flecks outside. And then if we go real slow, so we can just kind of identify what Blake has on his towers. Looks like he's got some great peppers. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, yes, look at that. Amazing. And then they've got, these beautiful bushes in the back. I don't know what they are. So if he chimes in, please, Blake, tell us what those are because we all want to know. And then, of course, back to the tower. Looks like he's got a dwarfed cherry tomato that's in the green phase, but it will turn in that beautiful Arizona sun. And then he's got a larger variety here. Don't know what the actual variety is, but he's definitely being very strong and bold by growing those because they will take over a tower. But being outdoors, I think you could probably prune them back pretty easy. I had to actually take some of mine out because they were wild children. So we got rid of them and just stuck with the cherry. But yeah, he's got some good blooms. His towers all look incredibly healthy. Like Blake has got it going on. He knows what he's doing, that is for sure. And I love his vibe. It's really good. And those towers in the back right there, I don't know what they are. I'll have to look on his website, but they look super like new age funky. And I definitely, as you can see on the bottom there on the left, I want to ask some questions about how he does his electrical outside. So I'm assuming Arizona doesn't probably get a lot of rain, but here in the Northeast, we get lots of rain in the summer. So I probably could not do that. So I need a different way to have towers outside. But here we go, keep going. So that looks like squash of some sort, and maybe some either baby squash or some cucumbers above it. And he's got a little trellis because those guys definitely need to be tamed. That's for sure. They get kind of crazy. Now, this, I don't know what that is. It could be an herb, could be something. But yeah, it looks real pretty. And again, look at his tower. So remember last week I talked about like rotating your crops. So he's got some new stuff. He's got some older stuff. He's got some mature stuff. This is how you do it, folks. So that constantly is being turned over. You're constantly putting new stuff in. So as one thing is leaving, another thing is blooming. So you just gotta time it just right. And Blake definitely knows how to do that. It looks like he's growing some onion of some sort, some chive. And then right there, he's got onion. And then I thought I saw, yeah, right there, he's got some cauliflower. That's cool. That's super cool. That looks like maybe fennel, I'm going to guess. And more cauliflower. And I think this is the cucumber, right? Yes, as he holds up the cucumber, it looks like one of those Space Master 80s, like one of those snack size. And that's a really good variety to grow on the tower for sure. You don't really want the big ones, or as we pointed out in previous videos, that the European or the English cucumbers they don't do well. They're better for soil based. It looks like he's got some soil stuff going on there. That looks like a new plant out there. I wonder what that is. Maybe tomatoes. Um, but he just, this video, I think I've watched it 100 times. It's just amazing. And there's his soil base there. So, and those are all in those grow bags. I'm actually going to try that this summer, I think. So, um, I'm going to go to the next slide where we get to actually meet Blake, not in person, but just in picture. And what I love about his vibe and his lifestyle is that he lives that lifestyle, meaning that we're growing our food, we're taking it into our kitchen, and we are consuming it. And as a result, he is a very super healthy human. And he's also loves animals. So you're going to see that right now. Let's go there. Okay, Mr. Blake. All right. So he's a little eye candy for all us girls out there watching, and boys, whatever, not quite sure. But he's got his little Yorkie in a backpack. He loves to go hiking. I noticed that in some of his social media. And he just looks a very interesting person, and it looks like he's been doing this for a long time. So I can't wait to have him on the show, and just talk about our experiences as tower gardeners, difference between being in New England and out there in Arizona. But so here to my left is a few of his pictures from his gallery, and one looks like some beautiful eggplant. I'm assuming that's, yes, looks like it's on his tower. So they're just a little more like dwarf size versus that real big soil-based eggplant. And also, too, he's got a variety of peppers, and that's what I'm going to be diving into next. I want to grow some jalapenos, just different varieties, different colors, just to kind of put a little spice into my cooking. But here is the part that I love. So Blake is really, really smart. So he's doing some inside and some outside. But as you can see, there's a picture of a flower. And we went over this last week because what is it? It's a companion flower. So if you struggle with soil-based stuff, you want to plant things like marigold. You want to put rosemary. If you're going to do a mint, make sure it's in a container so that it's not in the soil. Um, Simply because it will take over and just kill whatever's there. I struggled for 15 years to get it out of a container area in a backyard where I used to live, and it's still there today, and there's a new owner there living there. So be very careful with your mint. But things that have fragrance, even scented geraniums would be another one that is a companion because it's going to keep the bugs away. So this is Mr. Blake. And again, thank you so much for letting me use that clip and introduce you to our community here. And I would love to spend a little more time where we just kind of do a little interview together and share that with you guys so we can bring our experiences together. So let's go ahead and move on and say goodbye to Blake and his lovely dog and his abs because he lives the lifestyle. And we all know the abs are what? Built in the kitchen. Thank you, Blake. All right, so this is something near and dear to my heart. Up here in the Northeast, it is spring, and we're just starting to see things bloom, like the dandelions, which if you've got the beautiful lawns that look like, golf courses, people kill them off. And I'm here to pledge, please don't. Leave them. Don't let them go to seed, obviously, because it will ruin your lawn. But the bees that are coming out of the hives, that are coming out of the ground, the big bumblebees, they're looking for food. And if you don't have anything in bloom, then they're starving. So the other week, probably 2 weeks ago, we had one fly up on our back steps, and it just, honestly, it was a darn bee that looked like it had stumbled out of a Newport bar because it was just like so like disoriented. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on with this thing? And Libby's like trying to attack it. So I'm separating the two of them. I'm trying to scoop it up without getting, bit. And I wanted to put him over on top of the pole so he could fly away. And he just kind of on the other side. So I was like, what's going on? What happened? So I dug into this a little bit. And it's because he was hungry and there's nothing to eat in my backyard and he's looking for flowers. So it's now a couple of weeks. So I don't really see as many bumblebees anymore because they're going to obviously where the daffodils are. And there's a little yellow flower that's growing in Newport that I've never seen before. It almost looks like a little buttercup, but it's bright yellow. So obviously it's going to attract the bees. And so I'm sure they're getting it. But in the interim, if you're starting to see this in your backyard and you don't have things in bloom, you can go to Amazon and I just kind of Google search this. It's a bee watering station for honeybees. It's a feeder. And all you do is you take, I think it's like 1 pound of just white sugar and, kind of some water, kind of double the water, and then you boil it together so it melts down. And then you can put it into these feeders, and you can put it way up, like on fence poles or places that like your dog or cat or squirrels can't get. But it really will save the bees. And then when you do have things in bloom, like when your soil garden takes off, or maybe you move your towers outdoors, the bees are going to remember that you fed them. And now you've got squash flowers, you've got zucchini flowers, you've got uh, cucumber flowers, watermelon flowers, anything that's got a bloom, okay, that needs to be pollinated. They're going to come back and they're going to pollinate your food. So spend that $13, $14 and feed them now so they come back and so they can feed you. So I know, save the bees. And I found this little thing on picture on Facebook. I was like, that's super cool. And that guy built it. I don't know who he is, but I was like, he carved that out of wood. That's mad skills right there. And I'm like, yeah, that's an artist. So I just had to put that up and, come on, let's feed the bees, people, until our soil gardens get out there and they really start producing some flowers. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on. So I'm going to stop this movie because it's flashing and we're going to stroke out. Okay, so basically what this is a tower timer gone bad. We know that if you're working with tower garden towers, they come with a timer and it has two outlets so that you can plug two towers into one timer. Now, last week we went over this and we talked about, or 2 weeks ago, called This Old House. And you know me, safety first. So this woman, as you can see, she's pushing the button. I'm going to just let this go for a second. And she's trying to set it to 1. And what happens is it auto corrects and it circles back to 0. So there's either a shortage in the timer or her outlet is giving a signal and it's throwing it off. So my recommendation to this and to the group was, to take it out, okay? Unplug it, and it looks like it's in a kitchen, so that's really, really good. Bring it to an area in your house, like a bathroom or a kitchen, that has that outlet that has the GIF cert in the center. So those two little buttons, one's test and one's go, and then you have the two outlets on top of each other. Plug it into that. And if the GIA cert kicks out and it stops it and like trips it, that means that there's something in there in the wires that it's not good. And I would definitely not use it. I would call Tower Gardener, tell them what happened, and have them send you another one. Now, the other thing that I would recommend is we've talked about this. If you have a few towers, or maybe you just have one, you over time, if you find you've got a little extra change, a little extra pocket money, maybe you got your tax return, and you're really into gardening, especially on the towers, the two things that I highly suggest, actually three things that I would highly suggest that you have in a basket somewhere in your grow room: an extra pump, um, an extra timer. So if you have two towers, you can skip that one because each tower is sent with its own timer, and two towers can plug into one. So you already have one extra. So I would unplug it, save it, and plug the two towers into one. So you have that. And then the blue hose. So in your reservoir, there is a little blue hose that connects the pump into the tower and shoots the water up. Why? Because it's plastic. And eventually it's those little twisty things are going to break down. So without that pump, you can't make it rain. Okay. Without the pump, the blue hose, the water can't shoot up. Without the pump, that can't happen either. So those are the three things I highly recommend: the timer, a pump, they're not expensive, and the blue hose. Definitely. Those are the three things I would put into a basket, put it off to the side, and if you ever need it in the middle of the night, you know you have it. I've read so many stories recently, like, oh, the pump stopped working, or I've decided to, start my tower after 2 years after the pandemic. And what happens is they put it together, they've got their seedlings going, but they never tested the pump. So it's okay if your seedlings are still in that basket. You can leave them in the nursery for a little bit longer. Call Tower Garden. Please don't order on Amazon. I read a horror story about that where they're like, we'll send it out, we'll send it out, we'll send it out. And it was like 2 weeks. Well, everything she had died. So just buy it from Tower Garden. They know what they're doing. They are a reputable company. They're an amazing business. They stand behind their products, and that way your stuff will not die. And I did hear that they would overnight, not the actual tower, but a pump. So you could probably go half a day, maybe a day without water, but you could open up that shower cap and just reach into the reservoir, obviously with electricity unplugged, and just manually pour it, maybe once an hour, every 2 hours, stretch it out. Like if you're home, try to get through that day until the shipment gets there, and then you should be fine. But you don't want to be up all night watering your tower. You want to go to bed or be watching Netflix. So save yourself the aggravation and just stockpile those three things, and you will promise you'll be fine. If the light goes, who cares? You will be fine. You put it next to the other tower that has light. So um, that's my tip with the tower timer gone bad. So let's go ahead and move on. Yes, I am growing watermelons indoors, and they're growing, believe it or not. So I love a good challenge. If anybody knows me, if my mom is listening, she knows me. I love to live on the edge. I always have. So I planted a bunch of watermelons. They were the small size, of course, in the nursery to get them to, obviously, plant up, get into a seedling stage with the roots coming through the rock wall. And then I did not put them into a flex, because you would think, like, why wouldn't you put them into a flex? It's a big thing, because I like a challenge. So not only do I put them into a secondhand tower that was, kind of cruddy and I had to clean up, you can watch that video. Um, but I did a makeshift trellis out of dowel and uh, not rubber, steel rings from Michaels. And you can watch that video. I made it for like 20 bucks, $25. And it was really, really wobbly. And I'm going, oh, how is it going to support this? But then I've seen on my other towers that when everything starts to come together and they start to wrap around the tower, it's not wobbly. The weight of the plant and how it connects and wraps will balance it out. So it started to do that, and I was just playing with it the other day, um, and it's fine. It's actually relatively secure. It needs a little more weight, and I think we're going to be just fine. The one thing I did notice, though, is on the dowel, because it's obviously humid in that room where they're growing. One of the dowel stick had a little bit of mold, so I just kind of went over there and squirted it and cleaned it with a little bit of alcohol. So don't know how that happened. Probably just obviously from the moisture and living in a marine environment. So yeah, so I'm growing, and I gotta be honest, I'm doing the self pollination. Finally, my males came in, so I'm no longer using the cucumber flower, because I don't think that worked. I had to pick those guys off, and it was worth a shot. You gotta give me kudos for that. But now my males are in, so I'm using the correct flower with the correct female, and I can honestly say I think I have two or right now that I think they're pollinated. The flower's closed. I hope it's not my imagination, but I really do think that the watermelon's slightly engorged. So I'm like, yes, we have watermelon. And then I learned from this woman in Thailand. She's not using a tower, but she's just got a small little area in her garden, and she built this kind of homemade trellis. And then I texted, kind of emailing back and forth, and I said, how did you once the watermelon started to grow, like, what did you do? And she said, I built them a sling. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's ingenious. And then she showed me, so I'm just like, I'm like, I'm going to build swings. So once we get, I will build a little hammock swing, and that's what they're going to sit on. And I'm going to tie it into the tower and tie it into the trellis, so that the vine can support the fruit and the fruit can grow, because it's got its own little hammock. So stay tuned on that. Oh, also, the seed cams are in. So one of them, it's not live. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but I'm doing a time lapse, and it's on the pepper germination. So if you saw the live that I did, where I took all those, Ziploc bags and I planted them all out. So I've got one camera that's sitting above, and it's on a time lapse right now. It's probably 2 days right now, so it's not enough footage to post, but let's give it a little bit longer, and then we'll go ahead and do that. But it's there. And then the other one I'm going to use for the watermelon, but I just need to know that the watermelon it's growing, and it's not just my imagination. So stay tuned on that. I'm so excited. I can't wait. My husband's, he's like, you're growing watermelon? You're doing what? I'm like, just don't worry. Just don't worry. Okay, let's go. Oh my God. I love this one. So if you guys got your notifications on the from Tower Garden, they were holding us captive as to what they were releasing. But what they released was this limited edition Flex Tower that's terracotta. And it's yes, so it's terracotta. So here we go. This is the question. I got a terracotta flex and it didn't come with the bolts to hold the reservoir lid to the reservoir base. It has two holes. Okay, so let me just stop right there. So the two holes that she's circled, they are not to be bolted down. This is for the trellis. So it's an add-on, kind of an a la carte thing that you can buy through their website. And I strongly suggest it if you're going to be doing maybe watermelon. Cucumbers, tomatoes, they all need to be trellised. So what happens is they're going to send you two long rods that are just like the ones that are in the center, but they go in these holes. You have got wing nuts that you fasten on the bottom. And then as you can see, there's cups to the right and the left of that hole. And then you start to put these little plastic rods, and then you put the hoop for the first, and then you repeat for sections 2 and 3. So that's what those holes are for. They're not to be bolted down. That flex cover, believe it or not, is relatively heavy. So if you've ever built a a tower, which I'm assuming if you're gardeners you have, it's pretty heavy. And once you add all those pieces and you then add your seedlings, and if you're putting lights on them and growing indoors, you don't need any more weight. You don't need to fasten that sucker down. You just need to make sure that your water line stays below the ridge where the top and the base meet, and you'll be just fine. So I really would not worry about it. The home is a little bit different. It holds 13 gallons, and it does come with some wing nuts. But again, you don't have to do it because, again, it's the same principle. As long as you keep the water line below the line where the top meets the reservoir, you're not going to have any issues. And just obviously save the hardware. Keep it in that little green bag that they give you, and then just hang on to it. Put it into that basket with the extra pump, the blue hose, and the timer. Save it in case you really need it. Say you stripped your wing nut at the very top of the shower cap and it won't fasten anymore. You have extras now. So save, 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 save. Okay, so that's what those are. So let's go ahead and move on. I had to take a deep breath on this one. Stop. Put the scissors down. Okay. Um, in a lot of these forums, I just need to take a second because it was just like, oh, this was bad. All right. There are a lot of new people, and they sign up, and for these groups that are on everywhere. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're all over the place. And some are public, some are private. But again, some of the information that gets put out there, and I'm not an expert by any means. Let me just move this over, it's kind of in my face. Um, it it makes my blood boil because you've got this new person who's relying on everybody in this group, and there are moderators in some of these groups and some not. And then you've got some, maybe one person that's just leading their own group. But a lot can go wrong and really, really fast. So let me just read this comment, and then I went and I kind of tailored this a little bit to the right. So let's go ahead and read what this person wrote. I'm still new at this and wanted your help and opinions. Okay, so that means she's in trouble. Many of my rockwall cubes started to have some kind of white mold. The plants are still um, growing good though. Okay, great. Let's see. I do have to bring the pH down pretty often. I ordered and I think she's talking about a UV filters, like something you'd find on a fish tank or if you have an outdoor pond. Also, cucumber leaves getting really yellow. Also, I used half dose of nutrients at first, but wasn't quite enough, so full strength now. Growing indoors only. Okay, so let me start off like with some just really positive stuff. Hang on, girlfriend, or boy, I don't know what is male for. Just to hang on and take a deep breath. I've done this too. So when things start to go sideways, we're constantly like, what do I do? I need answers. And then you reach out to forums, and then you've got 90 people trying to give you advice. And the next thing you know, your head is like exploding, going, what do I do? I don't want to lose everything in my tower. So I'm going to start from the beginning. First thing, take a breath. Second thing, okay, so let's address, let's see, the first thing. She grows indoors. So she gave us the information. So if you're going to put something out in the group, let us know if you're indoors or outdoors. So we need to know that and make sure that you're actually a tower gardener and not a soil-based gardener because they kind of sneak into. Um, I'm going to address the half strength minerals and the full strength minerals. I'm going to be doing a video on this very soon. I get really frustrated because people are like, just do the half strength when the seedlings get in there, and when they get bigger, then switch. Well, you're dealing with, like, so for instance, if you have squash, they grow really fast, and they're going to go from a seedling to, I call it a tweeny stage versus a mature stage really fast. And so what do you do then? Are you still doing half? Are you still doing full? My leaves are, browning, turning black. They're, it's the wild, wild west. So my video is going to be about nutrients. And I fall victim to this too, because I was really, really scared. And I even shared this with my mom. I was like, I'm lost, like when it comes to the nutrients, the EC and the ppm. And I don't know what it stands for. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a tower gardener. I'm a simple person with knowledge. And I found this one video from this woman, and I promise you guys, I'm going to get her on here and where I'm going to thank her in person for doing her video. She had 53 million hits on this video because she explained it so simple. And so after watching that video, I was like, oh, well, that's pretty easy. And so I'm going to do the same thing for you, for my community. You got to do two things. Monitor your pH, and you need to know what you're growing and what pH it needs, first and foremost. And then you need to monitor your nutrients. So everything has a range. Like, so for instance, a tomato plant, um, the EC, I don't even care what it stands for. We're just going to call it EC. And you don't even need to know. You can research that at some point. There's a range between 1.8 and 2.4. So what I would do, and I did do this for my cloned tomatoes, and they're doing great. They actually have little buds, and I'm going to be doing a garden tour very soon, and I'm going to post it and show you guys that it's only been a couple weeks, and I already have tomato flowers. They're budding. It's crazy that I went from clone to flower in probably 3 weeks from when I did that video, Clone It Like Heaven. You can go and watch that after this. Um, but I would start, like if you're putting a seedling in, I wouldn't do half strength. I would do 1.8. Okay. And as they mature, each week you're going to be checking your pH twice a week and the nutrients once a week. And as they progress and they get into a flower stage, or they just start to grow really big leaves like the squash plant does, then you can slowly go from 1.8. So the range is 1.8 to 2.4. Now go to 2. And all that is just a little more nutrient. And in the video, I'm going to show you, I probably will name the video Nutrients for Dummies, because it is so simple. And I was so scared that I couldn't do it or figure it out. But this woman made it incredibly simple that I just can't thank her enough. And I want to do it on camera because she changed my world. She changed my towers. And now my zucchini tower wasn't really in trouble. It was just wasn't maturing at the rate that I needed, because I need both male and female flowers, and I was only getting male, pretty as they were. I'm looking for food, not pretty houseplant. So it really just changed it, where within a week's time, my leaves have gotten darker, which means it's maturing. And the next thing will follow will be the female, which is the actual fruit that I can take the male flowers to pollinate. So I promise that video is going to get done very, very soon, so that you guys out there that are watching this, you're going to be like, oh, this is super easy. I already have the EC meter posted on my website, towergardeningmadeeasy.com. So if you want to get going on that, it was only $10 on Amazon. And you're going to need that along with the other one that's going to read your pH. I like the meter that I have, so I didn't buy the sister meter for the EC. There's also a lot of controversy about the difference between the EC and the ppm. Not even going to deal with it. Not even going to deal with it. We're just going to deal with the EC because it's just easier to understand, easier to metabolize, and your towers are going to thank you. No more of this half nutrient crap. And then put the full strength in, because all you're doing is you're shucking the hell out of your towers. And the next thing you know, you're ending up like this poor girl going, my cucumbers are in trouble. Well, the one thing I will say about cucumbers, honestly, they're not a pretty plant. The flowers are gorgeous. They really, really are. So enjoy that. And they do pollinate relatively easy. Um, and but the leaves, they do cycle, and you just have to clip them off. But even if the leaves turn just a little bit, they're still going to produce fruit, a lot of it, especially if you're growing the little bite-sized ones, the Space 8080. And there's videos on that I just did a couple weeks ago, so go check those out. And they will. Right now I've got a half a tower, and I think I have almost 4 full size, like snack size. They're probably like 4 or 5 inches, but that's perfect for one salad for 2 people. It's awesome. All right, so back to this. So she gets into the all right, this is where I get like cuckoo, where I always like stop, put the scissors down. The cucumbers don't like their roots wet. What? They're growing on a tower. They're hydroponically being grown. So this is what I mean about the miscommunication. You're growing your vegetables in a hydroponic system, aeroponic system, hybrid, and they don't like their roots wet. Well, how do they grow then? So then she's like, I get into the base and I scoop them out once a week. Stop. First of all, safety first. I'm going to keep repeating this. Don't ever put your hand in that water unless you unplug it. Okay, don't. And I personally, if the roots are so, if like, let's just say that tower is like super mature, and you've had it going for a really long time, and so those roots are really in that basin, unplug it. Then I'm with her on this. But this girl is new, and her tower looks relatively new, so I don't think this is the problem. And she's saying, go ahead and get him out of there. Um, I'm with the person who's giving her the advice here on the right. We're saying, go ahead and get rid of some of the roots if it's affecting the pump. Okay, because then that's a whole other can of worms, and I covered that last week in my podcast. But if the roots are just hanging out there, leave them alone. Just that is what aeroponic hybrid growing is. But if it's messing with the pump, then yeah, cut them back, and then hopefully you're not stunting the plant. But most people are growing a variety of things that are on the tower. So if you reach in there and you grab all those roots and you start cutting, ripping them out, you're not only doing cucumbers, but you're probably doing your peppers, and you're doing your celery, and you're doing everything on that tower, and you are going to risk losing everything. So I would say once a week, if you want to unplug it, and just swoop them away, or just, you could reach in with a wooden or plastic spoon and just move your pump a little bit. I don't fasten mine to the bottom just for that reason. I want to be able to move them back and forth. That's fine. You know that the roots are going one way and the pump's going another, so the pump is just fine. That's definitely something that's just maintenance and good practice, but safety first. Be careful of electricity and the water. Okay, now the person who gave her this advice, now I'm going to give them a big pat on the back. I never even thought of doing this. This is awesome. The white on the rock wall could be because that it's too wet. Again, it's hydroponic. So of course the rock wall is going to get wet. That's how they're growing into that down into the tower. um, but she does something ingenious, which I've never even thought of doing, which I actually might try. She plugs a fan into the other timer. So the timer, remember I talked about, it has 2 ports. So obviously the pump goes into one, and then it goes into the wall. Well, there's still one outlet that's left. So she takes a fan and she plugs it in there, and then she does what I call upskirting the tower. So you're forcing air up into your cucumbers, your tomatoes, your peppers, your strawberries. So they're getting air, but it's on a timer. So it's turning on and off every 45 minutes to give it a big burst and then turn it off. Because I always feel sometimes like when I put it on my strawberries, and I leave it on them for a couple hours just to get that circulation, I come back and they're just like, oh, thank God, take it off, please. We're getting beat to death like they were in a hurricane. So being on a timer, I give them a big blast, and then then the next thing you know, that it gets turned off for 45 minutes. The leaves get to settle down a little bit. So, okay, I like that tip. I'm going to actually try it. And kudos to her. That's ingenious. Now, the rock wall. Let me just state this. If you have a little bit of that white on top, it's probably, I would say, nutrients buildup. And again, when you switch over to the video and learning how to do your nutrients properly through a meter and not just winging it, you probably won't have that buildup. It just means you got too much in your water. The second thing is if it looks like it's moldy, let's assess it. So is it powdery mildew? Don't know. If you get a little close and you smell it and it kind of smells like, I don't know, like dusty, it's probably powdery mildew. What you can do, you take a mixture that you probably already have in your nursery, because I've taught you this. It's just a spray bottle, and it has a solution of hydrogen peroxide and water. So it's 1 part hydrogen, 2 parts water, and just shake it and then just spray the top of that rock wall, and then leave it alone. Give it a day or two and see if that hydrogen peroxide got in there and killed any fungus that was growing on top. It works wonders on powdery mildew that you will get on cucumber plants inevitably, just because they're so drapey. And it did happen to my strawberries, but I've treated them a couple times now. And then I pulled out a lot of that green. So if you saw that live video where I spent like an hour pruning my strawberry tower, they're doing great, man. Those strawberries are getting bigger. A, because the nutrients are on point now, and two, they've got more airflow and more room to grow. So again, I apologize to my community. I am really, really behind on my videos. I need to get downstairs. I need to get on camera and make some content, and I need to go live and really point out a couple of things. So I promise I'm going to do that. Just been really busy. So, and then there's a lot of content that goes into this podcast, and I'm really enjoying it. So we're definitely going to keep this up, and I can't wait to bring people in here to interview. So, okay, enough with the full strength, half strength. We're gonna crack that as a community and make sure we get that. Okay, and let's see. If you don't have self-pollinating cucumbers, make sure you save the males to pollinate. Okay, so let me address that. There really is no self-pollinating cucumber plant. You have to use a fan. They grow in clusters, male and female clusters, and with a fan, they will pollinate together, but that's not self-pollinating. That only happens outside, not inside for inside growers. You can save the male flowers on any of the plants and put them in the fridge in a Ziploc bag. Don't put them together, keep them separate. And really just try to close that petal up if you can so that you preserve the pollen. I haven't really tried it, but I have heard through the forums that it does work. So go ahead and try it and save it, because if you only have 1 or 2 towers, inevitably you're going to need those flowers. So, you need the right one. So okay. So that was a big one, guys. I hope I addressed that, but put the scissors down, please. And really don't cut those roots unless you really, really have to, please. Okay, what is bolting? This is a great question. And I'm going to base it by using herbs. Okay, so I'm going to use dill as an example. So dill on a tower or even in the ground, it's really beautiful. It's very light and fluffy, and it grows super, super easy. But after a while, what happens is it goes to seed, and that's bolting. So it's going to produce right here on the left-hand side, you can see this beautiful yellow flower. And then when the flower opens and it dies off, it's left with this beautiful pod that's filled with seeds. And then you cut that off, shake out the seeds or pull them out, and you want to save them, dry them, and then that's how you start your next seedlings. That's called second generation. Now, all plants, I just want to address this, whether it be, tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, herbs, lettuce, they all have a shelf life on the tower. And, my tomato tower, the main one, it's almost there. It's just not producing a lot of flowers anymore, but it's got tons of tomatoes that are still green, that are turning, and I harvest off of it pretty much every day. So eventually when all those tomatoes are gone and I don't have any flowers, I have a house plant. So I have two choices. I can trim it down, really do my best to try to bring it back, or I can say c'est la vie because I've already started another tower from cloning it like Kevin. It's producing flowers and they're budded. I'm shocked. I cannot believe I have buds, and I can't wait to show you guys. It's just amazing after just a few weeks of taking cuttings off this main tower. So I think my plan is to just strip it and then flip it. And so the pepper seeds that are in the nursery right now, I think will go in that tower. So bolting is basically anything that's going to go to seed. It can happen with lettuce, it can happen with herbs. And when it does happen, you're better off just saying bye and then starting over and just starting fresh. We don't want houseplants because houseplants don't provide food. They're pretty though. Okay. So that's the explanation for that. Okay. All right. So I loved this one. Should I place protection under my tower? All right. Well, obviously, if your towers are outside, you don't really have to worry about that. But if they're indoors, I just want to cover this. And I'm going to go back to my podcast where I did that little segment called This Old House. Um, you want your towers first and foremost on a level surface. So make sure that where you have it is level because the water that's going to be um, cannoned up, if you will, to through the pump to the very top to the shower cap that where the lights sit on, it's going to then cascade down to then hit those roots that they're supposed to be wet, and then trickle back down into the basin to be pumped up again in 45 minutes. Um, it needs to be level because the water will find the self-leveling, if you will. And if it's not level, it's going to go to one side. And if everything is not tightly bolted down, and I'm talking on the inside of your tower, you're going to have water issues. Now, if everything is nice and tight, and let's just say that you have a couple of net pots that are not planted out, you're just waiting for something to sprout up in your seedlings in your nursery. Um, Keep that net pot in there at all times because that will help keep that splash down. The other thing you can do, you can buy tower covers. To me, that's a little excessive. I think what I would do is go to a dollar store and get one of those noodles, those little floaty noodles, cut it up, and I would literally just put that on top of the net pot, and that will um, basically just get rid of any splash that's coming from not having a piece of rock wall that would actually then be grabbing that water. Um, so in terms of that stopping the water, however, accidents do happen, and if you are on a wooden floor, just make sure that it's not an old wood floor. Make sure that it's sealed properly, and that you actually might want to go and get maybe at a dollar store or Ocean Job Lot or whatever you have for like a discount store, even Target, get those outdoor mats and place your tower on that to protect the floor. But be careful, check it periodically because you don't want that rubber mat on top of your wood floor because it will, A, patina the floor, and B, if any water were to get underneath it, it will leave a stain and it could potentially grow mold if you're in that environment. So, if you're on, like, say, Blake, you're out in Arizona, so I bet you have a lot of like tile. That's perfect. That is like amazingly perfect for having your towers on because if water happens, all it is just either tower paper towels or even just a mop to clean it up. So if you've got an area that you've got some ceramic tile in a kitchen, out like in a like a little outdoor patio that's enclosed, if you're here in the Northeast, that's an amazing floor to have. But check it from time to time, and also you want to rotate your towers even if they've got lights on it. Here up in the Northeast, I noticed something recently where we're kind of coming into the sun, and my husband he actually had a really good question. He goes, are they doing any better with the natural light? Because in the room that they're in, there are these two huge windows, and they do get light in them from being downstairs. And I did notice on the backside of one of my towers, the Strawberry Tower, that yeah, strangely enough, that natural sun that's getting in on top of the lights that are on them, I do see a little bit more brightness with the leaves. So there is something to be said for the natural light. So rotate your towers. You give everybody equal opportunity to have that natural light. But again, we're super jealous of Blake because he's in Arizona. Um, I just love it. I can't wait to talk to him. So anyway, so check your floors. Definitely get those waterproof mats, and don't put them on carpet. I guess that's the thing I could. No, don't put them on towers, on carpet rather. I think you're asking for a lot of problems. You're going to have to rip up that carpet. You're going to have to rip up the subfloor. It's going to be a nightmare. Excuse me. All right, so I hope I answered that. Also, to use a dolly. Use a dolly because that will catch some seepage too. All right, let's go. I love this. Okay. My kids and I have been doing an indoor gardening. Not for about a month, she says. I cannot believe the success we are having. I hope the gardens are from seeds. The tower gardens are purchased at Seedlings. Okay, so when I look at her room, I saw this and I was like, she's only been doing this a month? This is crazy. This is insane. So she has the dream setup that if you were to go to my website and you go through it, screen to screen or page by page, I should say, you're going to see the nursery setup, like what you need. It's a wire rack. I wouldn't use a wooden unless you don't care about it. That's fine. But what I love about the metal racks is that you can actually string your lights. If you look really close, either she did it or maybe her husband did it, but they wired up their grow lights underneath the metal. So she can have huge gaps where they can grow before they go into the tower, or maybe she's doing some soil stuff outside too. She's also got some, it looks like house plant pots, which I bet those are soil. So you can actually get a lot of room. So that is just amazing. I just love it. And she's got a desk there. So if she wanted to do some videos or podcast or, sit there and, do her seedlings. And then and if you look way back by the window, she has these 4 kits that it almost looks like a cart you would see, like a push cart. And there's 3 levels and it looks like those are all have grow lights, and it looks like she's just basically doing greens at this point, like lettuce. But even still, I mean, she's just rocking it. And then she's got her home tower, and it looks like it was basically newly planted. She's got the trellis. She's got, looks like, I mean, it's textbook. She has all of her cords to the back. You don't want them on the side or in the front. You want them in the back. The lights they're outside the trellis. They're perfectly distributed from the top to the bottom, from her baby green section all the way down to the last 4. So everyone's going to get proper light. She's got her nutrients up on that shelf. If you look to the picture to the right, I mean, it's like she's a doctor or a scientist. She's got everything just perfect. My only critique would be, and don't get angry, because you're growing indoors, and I've covered this, I would separate my hydroponic aeroponic systems from my soil-based, even having a smaller nursery somewhere else. And the reason being is that if, God forbid, knock on wood, in that soil, it's not regulated, so God only knows what's going to grow. That room is airtight, so I'm assuming there's probably no window open, there's no air circulation. I don't see a fan, but knowing her, she probably has one somewhere. In that soil, not only is the germination of the seeds in the plant going to happen, but things in the soil could grow. And if there was a spider mite or an aphid or something, they're going to pop out of that soil and they're going to be like, I just hit the jackpot. And they're going to be hopping on to all the seedlings. They're going to be hopping into that tower. And before you know it, everything in that room is going to need to be turned over. So if I'm going to do soil-based, which I probably will at some point, my seedlings will not be with my aeroponic seedlings. They'll be probably in the mushroom room, and I'll just keep that door closed. And because the old wire rack that was in my old room is there, and it just now is collecting dust. And I think my husband's taken it over, and he's putting tools on it. So I guess I could steal it back. But yeah, so I would do seedlings over there. I would not mix them. I don't want any soil whatsoever in the room that I have my towers, because I would lose 9 towers and all my seedlings. So that's my caution, my word of advice. Don't do it. So I'd take those 3 pots that are in that little area and move them out. But as far as everything else, even next to the wire rack, I just noticed that it looks like a sewing box. And I bet you she's so organized that I bet that's where her seeds are, seeds and tools. So whoever she is, kudos to you. Not only are you a great mom for introducing this to your kids and letting them experience science firsthand and growing their own food and introducing them to this lifestyle that we're all trying to live, of being healthy and growing our own food and staying out of the grocery stores. But man, oh man, her setup is just the bomb. So yeah, thumbs up on this one, kids. So if you want to learn how to do this, you can save this picture, watch this podcast again, or you can go to my website, towergardenmadeeasy.com. And I'm telling you, it's all spelled out there, what you need. All your essentials are right there. You just hit purchase. It's going to take you exactly where you need to go into Amazon. I found the cheapest, prices for the wire rack, for meters, even for seeds, even for the lights, the little grow houses that you need to start. But honestly, if you do what she did, you can find lights. Like the spider light is one of the best sellers that people click on and they go buy. They clips right to the side. You plug it in, it has a timer, and you just spray out those lights. They come in 4 or 6, and then you can just move them around. And honestly, if you're not doing any seedlings, you can literally take it off of the nursery, and you can clip it, believe it or not, because it has that magic, like huge clip, industrial clip, to the side of your tower. And then you can spray them out on the very bottom if you've got something that's just not getting enough light and there's tons of canopy, like your squash or your zucchini. Sometimes that's needed. I think I'm going to have to buy one because I've got some really big leaves, and I just know that they're going to need a little extra light if they're going to stay indoors. So yeah, this kudos, hands up to mom who did this beautiful room. All right, here we go. Are the tower garden parts safe to place in the dishwasher? Absolutely. They're not going to come out sparkling clean. And I'm not a big component of the agent that you can use because it's kind of like an acid that you can find on Amazon. But then somebody threw it out this morning and I just go, that's interesting. So they put the smaller pieces into the dishwasher and they run it through a sanitation cycle, like once or twice. I suggest kind of scrubbing them first and then putting them in. But then she said that she threw in a cup of the acid, citric acid, into the dishwasher as instead of using a tab, and letting them run through like a real, aggressive sanitation cycle. And she said they came out really, really clean. So given that it's in a sanitation, I actually might give that a whirl. I like my power washer, but given that I can take off a few components here and there because I'm growing indoors, I might try that because then the acid would get rinsed away and I wouldn't have to touch it. And then I could always run it through a clean cycle afterwards to make sure that the acid is all off the tower pieces. So they are safe. And the towers are made of food grade plastic. So you don't ever have to worry about that breaking down. They do say that, obviously, I won't get into this too much, but I will touch on it that, we do a lot in our society with plastic straws. We're microwaving food in plastic Tupperware, and the plastics that we ingest, it's in our water, believe it or not. It's in toothpaste. There is a hormone, obviously we've heard of estrogen, that binds to the receptor, and it's not good for you. And so for males that are watching this, really be careful because it really can help, I won't say help, you will pack on some weight and you'll have some disturbing side effects if you have too much estrogen in your body. So do a little research on that. I don't want to touch on that too much. I just want to stay happy here. But be aware that, plastics, like, if you're microwaving chicken in a plastic dish, you're better off putting it on a plate and doing that so that you're not absorbing any extra of those estrogens because they're really not good for you. But hey, I do drink out of plastic straws. I'm not doing the paper, just saying. All right, let's move on. Yes, I want to grow Halloween peppers. So I said in the very, beginning of this podcast that I've got a tower full of peppers right now, but I want to branch out. I want to grow some jalapenos. I want to just kind of, do a little different varieties, and grow all of them together on one tower and just see what happens, because I've got a lot of the same pepper right now, and um, it's boring. I'm probably going to have to give some away because there's so many, and that's okay. I don't mind. But I think growing a variety and see how they all kind of blend together now that I've done it. They all pollinate pretty much the same way. They throw out this little white flower. And if you just go by and you tap it on the head or use a toothbrush and let it vibrate, it releases that little powder. It's like, it almost looks like snow, or baby powder would be a good way. Same thing with the tomatoes. You just tap it and it just drops it, and then they pollinate. So when they were in that stage of flowering, I was over there every day, just biz, 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 biz like a bee. And I have peppers everywhere. Again, I'm behind in my videos, people. I need to do a garden tour for you, and I apologize. I will. I promise. All right, let's go. All right. Okay. When are my seedlings ready to go into the tower? Oh, this is a loaded question, people. All right. Let's just look at seeds first. There are all kinds of different seeds. You got the big seed varieties, which is like cucumbers, your melons, your squashes, things like that, even beans. And they spread up real fast in the nursery. And you can, see that root system. If you watch the Jurassic cucumber, I literally had, roots that were wrapping around the bottom within 5 days. It was crazy. Um, and they just love the environment. They love that little warm room. They still do when I plant them. Some people I've even heard they plant them in the tower. So not all seeds are created equally, but here's the rule of thumb. When you plant something in your little greenhouse that's going to sit in your nursery, remember you just saw the picture of that mom on your wire rack under the lights. I get in there and I'm nosy. I'm just a nosy little girl. I get in there with my tool and I lift it up and I'm going, okay, do I have roots? Do I have roots? The roots need to be, okay, here's textbooks. They need to be on all four sides of the bottom. But sometimes it takes forever. And, I'm an Aries and I'm really impatient. So the cloning aspect, I was like, oh, God, this is so for me. But some things can't be cloned, I guess. I don't know. Well, I will retract that statement because I haven't done everything. So who knows? But if you're doing it from seed, it has to stay in the nursery until you see some like really good roots coming through. All of the big seeds I just talked about, they come through real easy within probably 5 to 7 days. You'll see some, and even if you've got one here, one here, one here, one on the bottom, you're good to go. Okay, but if you're doing something like celery, strawberries, these granular type seeds, that the root systems are very fine. They look like string, and it looks like you've got lots of beautiful green leaves on top, but they just haven't penetrated the whole rock wall. Um, Unfortunately, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. Don't put it in the tower just yet. And it's not because of the nutrients. It's because they don't have the root system developed yet to uptake through the rock wall into their system. They just need to be a little bit more grown or mature to put them in the tower. Now, I will say this, and this happened to me when I planted out the first tomato tower. I put a bunch in there, and I was like, yes, finally, they finally are doing it. I went back 6 hours later. Half of them were wilted. Now, it doesn't mean that they died. It just means they weren't ready. And so I was like frantic going, what did I do? Did I kill them? And so I took them out one by one, took them out with my little tools, and I put them back in the nursery. And I left them there for another week until they could grow just a little bit more. The ones that were in the tower, I waited a few more hours, and by the next morning, no wilting, so they were good to go. So I felt confident to leave them, even though they probably should have been in the nursery. I rushed it, I'm not going to lie. But the ones that wilted, they went right back. I learned my lesson and said, nope, they're not ready. And they just took forever. So when I figured out that you could clone the tomatoes and not do it from seed, and this is the tomato that I love, it tastes amazing, and it grows awesome on the tower. This is a variety that I know that I'm going to use. I'll never do seed again. I'll just keep cloning off of one tower to build out another one, and I'll show you guys in a little bit what's on there and how much it's grown and having little flowers. It's awesome. So Don't rush them if they're granular seeds, but the big seeds, they do okay. And you can even try it, experiment, take a cucumber seed and put it into rock wall and throw it in your tower and see what happens. Listen, the bottom line here is that we're all, I'm not going to say we're scientists, we're gardeners, and you just sometimes have to shoot from the hip and just try it and see if it see what happens. It may work, it may not, and don't be disappointed if it doesn't. You learn. A coach told me this. You learn more from your failures than you do your successes, and you'll go, "I'll never do that again. I'll do it this way. I'll do it the right way." But if you don't try it, you don't know. So it's kind of like living on the edge a little bit. That's what I would do. Just this picture is a good depiction as to when it's ready to go in the tower. And again, don't worry about the nutrients. That video is going to come, and I'm going to have this lovely woman from Canada on to thank, and I'm going to explain it in really simple terms, people. It's not difficult. I thought it was. I was really scared, going, I'm going to screw this up, and all my towers are going to die. But they didn't. They're actually doing really, really well. So that's going to come very, very soon. So let me just go to this last screen. So this concludes our podcast this week, and I really hope that you guys got a lot out of this today. I threw a lot of information, and again, Mr. Blake, my new best friend, I can't wait to talk to you, and just build that relationship. I want to talk about our experiences, as I mentioned before, and anybody else out there that you can contact me through the website, or reach out to me at towergardeningmadeeasy@gmail.com, and I'm happy to talk to you and share experiences, and maybe you can come on the podcast too. And just share our knowledge, because knowledge is power, people. That's the bottom line. It really is. Knowledge is power. And the more that we can share into our community and educate the community on a lot of this nonsense of people that they're not experts, but they think they are. And they throw this, information out to newbies, and then they get into trouble. So, not all forums are like that, but I have seen that with people. And I've actually seen moderators actually take down comments that are wrong. So kudos to them for doing that, because we've spent a lot of time, energy, and money on our towers, our seedlings, in our nurseries. And we don't want to get it wrong. We're just looking for help. And that's what this channel, Tower Gardening Made Easy, is all about. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me today. And we'll be live again next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will bring hopefully a bunch of really great things that I see over the week. We'll put it together, and we will see you then. But I'm back to doing some content, and I promise you guys I will do a tower tour, and I will also get on that nutrient thing, because it's so important. Enough of the half. I'll leave it there for today. But yeah, that got me going. So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.